The 8th session of the Senate in the second regular session of the 16th Congress is hereby called to order. The chamber will be led in prayer by Senator Paulo Benigno Bam Aquino IV. Senator Aquino.
Amang makapangyarihan, lubos kaming nagpapasalamat para sa araw na ito, sa inyong mga biyaya at sa walang hanggang pagmamahal po ninyo sa aming bayan. Biyayaan niyo po ang mga pamilyang Pilipino, naway lalong mapagtibay ang samahan ng bawat pamilya saan man sila sa mundo ngayon. Pati rin po ang mga kabataan, naway sila'y mahikayat na makilahok sa mga isyu ng ating bansa. Naway magamit nila ang kanilang angking talento at kakayanan upang makabuo ng mga makabagong solusyon para sa matagal ng problema ng ating bayan. At syempre Lord, biyayaan niyo po ang aming minamahal na bansang Pilipinas, naway maranasan po ng lahat ng Pilipino ang ating tinatamasang kaunlaran. Naway bigyan niyo po kami ng kalakasan ng katawan, tamang pag-iisip at mabuting puso upang maisakatuparan namin ang aming misyon na bigyang kadakilaan ang inyong pangalan. Amen.
Amen. The Secretary will call the roll.
Roll call of members. The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano Alan Peter Compañero S., Cayetano Pia S., Defensor Santiago, Ejercito, Enrile, Escudero, Estrada, Gingona, Unasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Usmeña, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar, Senate President Drilon.
16 senators are present. The chair declares the presence of the quorum. Majority Leader.
Magandang hapon po, Mr. President, at sa ating pong mahal na mga colleagues. Mr. President, with the consent of the Senate, I move that we dispense with the reading of the Journal of the 7th Session, August 12, 2014, and consider the same as approved.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The reading of the Journal of Session number 7 on Tuesday, August 12, 2014 is hereby dispensed with, and the same is hereby approved.
Sir President, may I ask that we acknowledge the presence of students from the De La Salle University, Manila College of Law, headed by Patricia Magsinio.
The students from the College of Law of De La Salle University, Manila, headed by Patricia Magsino, are hereby recognized, and their presence is made of record. Welcome to the Senate.
Mr. President, we also have students of Southern Luzon State University from the College of Public Administration, headed by Dr. Heriberto Casino.
The students and delegation from the Southern Luzon State University Public Administration Department, headed by Heriberto Casino, is welcome to the Senate. Good afternoon.
It is with the hope that they be inspired by the sessions to enter public service, Mr. President. Sir President, I move that we proceed with the reference of business.
Secretary will read the reference of business.
Bills on first reading. Senate number 2341, entitled An Act Requiring Retail Stores that Provide Plastic Bags to Consumers to Implement a Plastic Bag Collection and Recycling Program by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Environment, Natural Resources, Trade, Commerce, Entrepreneurship, Finance.
Senate number 2350, an act establishing the Forensic Science Institute in the University of the Philippines System, defining its functions and appropriating funds therefore by Senator Cynthia A. Villar.
Public Order and Dangerous Drugs, Education, Arts and Culture, Finance.
Senate number 2351, an act increasing the monthly minimum wage of public school teachers to 25,000 pesos and non-teaching personnel to 15,000 pesos by Senator Legarda.
Committee on Education, Arts and Culture, Civil Service, Government Organization, Finance.
Senate number 2352, an act promoting the development and utilization of renewable energy in all government buildings and offices, providing funds therefore and for other purposes by Senator Recto.
Energy, Civil Service, Government Organization, Finance.
Resolutions. PS Resolution number 827, commending and congratulating the Philippines' 10 outstanding police officers in service, COPS, of 2014 as selected and sponsored by Metrobank Foundation, PS Bank, and the Rotary Club of New Manila East by Senator Grace Poe.
Rules.
PS Resolution number 828, urging the national government through the National Historical Commission of the Philippines to include the Basilica del Santo Niño of Cebu in the tentative list of the Philippines for the UNESCO World Heritage List, and to immediately nominate the same for recognition as a UNESCO World Heritage Site by Senator Trillanes IV.
Education, Arts, and Culture.
PS Resolution number 829, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the report that a new kind of drug said to be a combination of ecstasy, methylendoxymethamphetamine, and shabu methamphetamine, or the erectile dysfunction treatment drug Cialis, and known by the names Fly High, Party, or Superman, is making the rounds in bars and nightclubs in the country by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Public order and illegal and dangerous drugs.
PS Resolution number 830, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the Philippine Coast Guard's reported seizure of 5 tons of smuggled dried shark's fins in the port of Zamboanga by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Ways and Means, Agriculture, and Food.
PS Resolution number 831, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the report that the Ebola outbreak death toll has reached 887 according to the World Health Organization by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Health and Demography.
PS Resolution number 832, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the reported bush fire that affected 5,000 families in Albay by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Environment and Natural Resources.
PS Resolution number 833, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the reported need to implement stricter standards for the handling of luggage at Philippine airports and to impose harsher penalties for theft and mishandling of luggage in airports by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Public Services.
PS Resolution number 834, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the report that a fruit virus which causes Huang Longbing or citrus greening disease poses a threat to the citrus industry of Nueva Vizcaya. Senator Defensor Santiago.
Agriculture and Food.
PS Resolution number 835, directing the Committee on Agriculture and Food and such other committees to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the reported disappearance of 1,600 sacks of rice worth 2.4 million pesos from the warehouse of the National Food Authority in Agusan del Sur. Senator Defensor Santiago.
Agriculture and Food.
Yes, Resolution number 836, congratulating and commending the Metrobank Foundation's outstanding teachers of 2014 by Senator Cynthia A. Villaro.
Rules.
Additional reference of business. Bills on first reading. Senate number 2353, entitled An Act Providing for Tax Exemption of Marginal Income Earners by Senator Paulo Benigno Bamakino IV.
Ways and Means.
Senate number 2355, an act regulating the practice of fisheries profession in the Philippines, creating for the purpose a professional regulatory board of fisheries and appropriating funds therefore by Senator Trillanes IV.
Civil Service, Government Organization, Finance.
Senate number 2356, an act regulating the practice of nutrition and dietetics in the Philippines, repealing for the purpose Presidential Decree number 1286, known as the Nutrition and Dietetics Decree of 1977, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes by Senator Trillanes IV.
Civil Service, Government Organization, Finance.
Senate number 2357, an act strengthening, modernizing, and internationally aligning the practice of agricultural engineering in the country into agricultural and biosystems engineering, repealing for the purpose Republic Act number 8559, otherwise known as the Philippine Agricultural Engineering Act of 1998 by Senator Trillanes IV.
Civil Service, Government Reorganization.
Committee report. Committee report number 66, prepared and submitted jointly by the Committees on Civil Service and Government Reorganization and Finance on Senate number 2354 with Senator Trillanes IV as author thereof, entitled An Act Constituting a Commission for the purpose of studying the feasibility and desirability of relocating the national capital and seat of government of the Philippines and for other relevant purposes, recommending its approval in substitution of Senate number 655, sponsor Senator Trillanes IV.
Calendar for ordinary business. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move that we recognize Senator Sani Angara to be recognized to speak on a matter of public interest.
Senator Angara is recognized on the privilege hour.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Majority Leader, dear colleagues. I rise on an issue of public interest. This pertains to the plight of our returning OFWs from Libya. Today, a total of 1,036 Filipinos in Libya are to be evacuated by sea from two Libyan port cities, Benghazi and Misrata. According to news reports, the evacuation was originally set for Sunday, but has been rescheduled due to logistical reasons. Apart from the over 1,000 Filipinos who registered for evacuation by sea, nearly 600 Filipinos in Tripoli are waiting for their turn to exit Libya via the Tunisian land border. This brings the total number of Filipino workers who accepted repatriation to more or less 2,000 since the government enforced mass evacuation of the more than 13,000 Filipino workers there last month. Despite the growing violence in Libya, which for instance led to the kidnapping and beheading of a Filipino construction worker in Benghazi and the abduction and gang rape of a Filipino nurse in Tripoli, Foreign Secretary Albert Del Rosario has said that convincing OFWs to leave was and still is a challenge because of their fear of being unemployed back here in the Philippines. And worse, because of their belief that they have better chances of surviving in war-torn Libya than in their home country. Mas pipiliin daw ng ilan na tahakin ang panganib sa Libya kaysa sa mawalan ng seguridad sa trabaho dito sa Pilipinas. Malinaw, Mr. President, na ang mas epektibong paraan ng pagkumbinsi sa ating mga OFWs ay pagsisiguro na hindi sila mababakante sa trabaho sa pag-uwi nila rito, na meron tayong tulong na maibibigay sa kanila. Kung hindi trabaho o kabuhayan, importante na may impormasyon o kakayahan na tutulong sa kanila sa paghanap ng kapalit sa nawalan nilang trabaho. Labor and Employment Secretary Rosalinda Baldo said that OFWs repatriated from Libya will each get 10,000 in financial assistance from the OWA, or the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, as one of the means to provide them immediate financial relief. She also said that returnees would be assisted through immigration and will be given temporary shelter, transportation, medical assistance, and stress debriefing. Ang inisip po natin at ang dahilan ng ating alinlangan ay bukod sa isang bigay na 10,000 piso ay ano-ano pa ang maaaring ipagkaloob ng sa ating OFWs na makakabawas sa mabigat na alalahanin sa pagkawala ng trabaho at panghihinayang sa dating kinikita kapag naririto na po sila. Ang tanging nais natin, Mr. President, kung paano mapagsilbihan sila ng kanilang pamahalaan. Alam naman po natin na sa bawat OFW na nawawalan ng trabaho, ang apektado ay hindi lamang sila kundi ang kanilang pamilya, their extended family na umaasa po sa kanila para sa tulong, para sa pagpapaaral at iba pa pang pangangailangan po sa buhay. Mr. President, in an August 7 story in the Philippine Daily Inquirer entitled An OFW Story, 11 Hours of Terror in Libya, it featured the OFW Danilo Pecante, a 47-year-old heavy equipment mechanic na nagtrabaho sa Libya noong 2007. Pero nung nagkaroon ng uprising against Muammar Gaddafi in 2011, isa siya sa mga bumalik sa Pilipinas for repatriation. Bumalik po siya sa Pilipinas pero hindi po siya nakahanap ng trabaho. So bumalik po siya sa Libya noong taong 2012 after the deployment ban was lifted. Yung 2-year employment contract niya sa Libya matatapos na po sa Disyembre, but because of the repatriation, he has to go back here to the Philippines again. When asked about why many Filipinos continue to insist staying on in Libya, Mr. President, he said that they could not let go because of the high salary that they were earning. Ganito po sana ang iniiwasan natin mangyari na dahil sa walang mahanap na hanap buhay ang ating mga kababayan dito sa bansa, ay napipilitan silang makipagsapalaran at ibuwis ang kanilang buhay sa gitna ng kaguluhan sa ibang bansa. Di na po question na ang mga prioridad sa ngayon ay ang kanilang seguridad, ang kanilang ligtas na pag-uwi at pagbabiyahe, at pati na ang muli nilang pagkikita o reunion sa kanilang pamilya, subalit kailangan din ng mga panukalang makakatulong sa kanilang katayuang panlipunan at pang-ekonomiya, at kailangan din siguruhin na malalampasan nila ang mapait na nangyari at magiging ganap ang kanilang muling pakikisalamuha sa lipunang Pilipino. Sa maraming syudad sa Libya ay patuloy ang digmaan, at kahit ilang libong milya ang layo nito sa ating bayan, ay parang ginegyera na rin ang dibdib ng ating mga pamilya na mayroong mga miyembro ng kanilang tahanan na nagtatrabaho roon bilang OFWs. Thank you, President. Mr. President.
The Minority Leader, Senator Soto, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the distinguished gentleman yield to a few questions?
Most certainly to the distinguished Minority Leader who actually inspired me to give this speech, because I was talking to him yesterday in the lounge and I mentioned that I was interested in filing a resolution to investigate the situation of the returning OFWs, and he told me, veteran legislator that he is, why don't you just give a speech and then it can be referred directly to the committee?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. President. As a matter of fact, I would like to take this opportunity to commend the gentleman and associate myself as well with the privileged speech that he has given.
Thank you, Mr.
We
President.
would just like to ask that if this privileged speech is referred to the proper committee, which I did at this point I suppose would be the Committee on Foreign Relations, that we ask for the complete data and details of the Filipinos in Libya. Would you have an idea, Your Honor, on how many Filipinos there are in Libya right now?
Mr. President, distinguished colleague, the preliminary research, there are approximately 13,000 Filipinos in Libya.
And how many are being repatriated?
According to preliminary research, 2,000 have signified a desire to return home.
Do we have a consulate there or an embassy?
These details, Mr. President, I'm really not sure, because as you know, we only conceptualized this yesterday. So I hope to be able to get more details from our consular and diplomatic corps when we have the actual meeting, Mr. President.
Thank you. We will be very interested to find out also, Mr. President. And just in case, allow me to pick on the mind of the gentleman, or he might have details. Ano bang pinag-aawayan sa Libya?
I think it's a war. It's a civil war.
Ano ba talaga ang pinagsimulan? Ano ba?
Power, control. I think like most civil wars, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. As I said, I would like to associate myself with the privileged speech, and hopefully these questions will all be answered and taken up during the hearing that will be conducted after you refer this to a particular committee. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to the gentleman from Aurora.
Thank you, Mr. President, and my thanks to the distinguished Minority Floor Leader.
The Majority Leader is recognized.
Mr. President, may I ask for 2 minutes to ask some questions and congratulate Senator Angara, please, with the permission of Senator.
Most certainly to the distinguished Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. President, first let me congratulate him on bringing up this issue, because we have 10 million Filipinos abroad. We always call them our heroes, but actually they're not treated like heroes. And most of the time, at least, Mr. President, I'd like to just emphasize one concept, being proactive. Mr. President, Senator Angara mentioned Mrs. Maribel A. Espares, who is the widow of beheaded OFW Antonio Espares. They are from Taguig. So they've been coming to see Mayor Lani and myself. She was here last week. And again, talking of being proactive, first of all, may I ask the Senator Angara, if something happens to our OFW, what should our government immediately do? What would be the logical thing for them to immediately do, Mr. President?
Mr. President, distinguished Majority Floor Leader, I think the most logical thing to do was to check on their actual condition, whether it's for the consulate or the diplomatic officer who is physically closest to them, to check on and inquire what possible assistance they might require.
And actually, you are now the acting chairman. The gentleman is the acting chairman of the Labor Committee. But if he was the Secretary of Labor, as you said, you would check on them and then inform them. So I assume that means that you will call Mrs. Espares, ask her what she needs, inform them of what's happening. Is that correct?
Yes, I think that would be.
Well, according to Mrs. Espares, she had to go to them, and she continues to go to them, and they are not communicating with her. And when we talk to the DOLE or the POEA, OWA, etc., justified naman, sabi nila kasi nasa Benghazi mismo. So yung delay para makuha yung katawan kasi war zone. But the point of those who are comforting Ms. Espares, including the Migrante group, is that couldn't they have taken the lead? Couldn't they have called her and say, "Ma'am, war zone ho doon, ganyan, but we're doing our best, etc. Nangyari parang dentista na binubunutan pa ng ngipin eh. Parang the OFW's family has to go to them and keep following up and everything. So that's the first point I wanted to make, no? Second, I did also say the line of the government, which is, Mrs. Pares, ang problema kasi war zone doon, no? But alam nyo po, ang sagot po niya is, but eto yung hinanakit nila. When the war first broke out and they were sending people home, and in fact, some companies sent them home, sent OFWs home and paid for their whole contract, the government did not stop sending OFWs to Libya. So although ang napapanood natin sa TV ngayon, nababasa natin sa news, napapakinggan natin sa radyo is, ayaw umuwi ng mga OFWs. Paano gugustuhin umuwi? Pag umuwi sila, magugutom pamilya nila, nandun sila, yung iba kumikita ng 150 to 300,000 a month. So they'd rather risk their life there than come home and face hunger, no? But having said that, what the government is saying is that wala tayong magagawa, ayaw umuwi, is not complete. Because why did we allow OFWs to keep going there when we knew that there was a war, no? And I think this is part of being proactive, no? And lastly, Mr. President, may I ask the acting chairman when he calls a hearing to look also into the contracts. I was told that if the company tells the OFWs to go home, they are paid the entirety of their contract. So if it's a 2-year contract, 4 months ka pa lang, they will pay you the 18 months and bonuses. So, syempre, gusto nila umuwi. Sino ba namang gustong nasa war zone ka at malayo sa pamilya? But, in the case, for example, now, the companies are not ordering their employees to go home. So they will not take it against them if they do go home, but they will not be paid. No? In fact, Ms. Espares had to negotiate or had to face the humiliation of asking for the whole contract price of her husband. Nung una, ino-operan muna ng maliit na amount palaki, no? Rather than saying, kaya nga siya napatay dahil he was there at that time, hindi siya pinapauwi. They eventually offered the whole contract price. My point, Mr. President, is that I'd like to know if our authorities here have looked into that. Have they asked the agencies to prepare the contract that if there is, for example, an outbreak of disease or of war or a fortuitous event that happens and it is not safe for OFWs to be there, no? Can this trigger still the full or at least a substantial payment of their salaries and emoluments rather than for them to always be thinking, should I stay and my family not be hungry or should I send them home, no? So again, Mr. President, I thank the gentleman from Aurora for despite his busy load in his other committees, taking these matters seriously. And may I bring also to his attention the other issues facing other areas. For example, no, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Singapore are looked at as OFW-friendly nations, no, and easier to travel. There are no restrictions on communication, on religion. But just recently, there are 12 OFWs from Hong Kong who came home because they were only being paid half of what their contract price, and their ATM cards were confiscated by the employers, and the employers were paying them, so the money was going to the bank, but the employers had the card and was withdrawing the amount and was only giving them half. No? And the funny thing is that, or the sad thing, is that the Hong Kong authorities immediately acted upon it. But it took the media and 3 to 4 weeks before the Philippine authorities acted upon it. How can it be that a foreign country would protect our OFWs more than we would protect our own? No? So may I ask the gentleman to include instances like this, and I'm sure after this speech, he will be getting emails, he will be getting messages on Facebook, he'll be getting tweets on specific cases, and I'm sure the committee will be able to effectively advocate the changes here. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Angara.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished Majority Leader, and rest assured that we will definitely take all these important matters, and I note how the Majority Leader, with all the work he has to oversee here in the Senate, has managed to look into the personal circumstances of the widowed, and I pay pay him the utmost compliment for taking the time out, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President, I move that we refer the speech and the interpellation of the Minority Leader and myself to the Committee on Labor, Employment, and Human Resource Development.
So referred.
Mr. President, may I ask for a minute suspension?
Suspended for 1 minute. G.
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Sorry. Session is resumed.
Mr. President, may we acknowledge the presence of Mayor Nino Taico from Pasacao, Camarines Sur, who is here with us today.
The mayor from the municipality of Pasacao, province of Business Drilon, Camarines Sur. Mayor Nino Taico is recognized.
Mr. President, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, just for the record, we were going to take up interpellation for Senate Bill number 2282 under Committee Report number 56, the Fair Competition Act, and then afterward, the same for Senate Bill number 2042 under the Committee Report number 8, Chemical Weapons Prohibition Act. However, some members have asked for additional time to propound their questions and to prepare, so we will be taking this up both on Monday. Furthermore, Mr. President, with the permission of the Senate, just some administrative matters. We received a letter from the Committee on Agriculture. So with the consent of the Senate, I move that Senate Bill number 2207 under Committee Report number 23 be returned to the Committee on Agriculture and Food and to the Committee on Environment and Natural Resources for the purposes of conducting further public hearing on matters arising after the report, Mr. President.
This is a letter from the chair of the Committee on Agriculture.
Yes, upon her request, Mr.
And the request, the motion in effect is being adopted by the Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? The referral of the said committee report to the committee, to the calendar for ordinary business is hereby recalled, and the same is returned to the Committee on Agriculture for further hearings. So returned.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, may I ask for 2 to 3 minutes to speak on a matter of personal and collective privilege?
The Majority Leader is recognized on a question of personal and collective privilege.
Mr. President, to my knowledge, I have not filed any libel cases, even if oftentimes I read the articles that are libelous against my person or my office, because I believe that the libel law should be decriminalized. I also believe in the freedom of expression, the freedom of the press, but I also believe in a responsible media, especially, Mr. President, when we distinguish between editorials, opinions, and factual reporting. In editorials and opinion writing, they have much latitude. But when a newspaper pretends to have a factual report, but then it is malicious, grossly inaccurate, or words are intentionally put to change the meaning of the factual report, then it becomes very irresponsible, and it does harm to the freedom of expression and freedom of the press, because even the other legitimate newspapermen, legitimate outlets of the media, print, broadcast, radio, TV, the traditional media, tri-media, pati po sila naapektuhan because yung credibility ng sistema at ng media. So without going into all the arguments, Mr. President, allow me to submit certain articles that were written in the front page of the Tribune, the front page of a tabloid, and a article by former Senate President Maceda. Basically, these two articles claimed that there are ghost employees in the city of Taguig, and the city is winning awards left and right, from the World Bank being the most business-friendly city in Metro Manila and top 10 in the whole Philippines. They just topped the National Achievement Test from number 13 out of 17 in Metro Manila in 2009 to number 1 this year. And I think I owe it to the city that has been very good to me to defend its honor. So first, there was a claim that there are 3,000 casuals by the